Ich grüße dich zu diesem weiteren Expertenaustausch mit einer Frau, die ich schon seit einiger Zeit kenne. Wir werden heute sprechen über Company Branding. Oh, did I start in German? I started in German. Let's just read. That's when it's live and then when it's the actual premiere in English. Been sitting next to me, you would see the slight touch of redness. So welcome to this conversation with a dear, I think I can say, friend of mine who's doing company branding and career coaching. And what we're going to be talking about today is courage. Courage to step out into the public domain the way you are, to show yourself with the qualities, with the strengths, but also with the weaknesses that you bring along, to find out who you are and to find also the company you want to work for or the company you want to create with your own services. And who better to talk to about those topics than Inés, Constantin. Let's just say hi to you. I'm so happy that you come into the conversation today.
Thank you so much, Anya, for having me. And honestly, this was the best entrance for a live because that's exactly what I want to talk about, exactly this courage to say, oh, you might see a slight redness in my face. And hey, it's okay. It's like the chit chat we had before we went live, where you could tell me, stop looking at your hair. It's fine.
Yeah. And let's just start there. I mean, so you do those two services. You do company branding and you do career coaching. Let's just start with the company branding for those who have no idea what that means. I'm a company, I'm self-employed, like a lot of our colleagues. What does company branding mean to me? What does it bring me?
Well, let's put it this way. It's more about employer branding. That maybe is a slight difference in terms of, the branding process. Now, I've had this discussion some time ago on LinkedIn, actually, when a person said, well, but I'm a self-employed person. How do I have to do employer branding? Because I don't really employ someone, which is true. So there is a slight overlap of the personal, 𝗨𝗪𝗂𝗶𝗴𝗲 calls it professional branding. And, the branding as an employer, when it is about hiring people, when it is about positioning yourself. So I would say it's almost like it's a coin and I'm serving both sides of the coin. And what this two sides have in common is they want to have a successful relationship, which means that a company wants to position itself to attract top talent. And this is what I see companies struggle with nowadays, especially small and mid-sized companies, because they just follow certain marketing rules. They position themselves. They talk about all the positives. But what they're missing is to actually talk about the struggles as well. Because it is only when they're honest that they actually attract really the people that fit the culture as well. And that are going to stay and are going to be happy in the long term. And the same thing is on the coin on the other side is the people that are looking for a career that makes them happy, that fulfills them. When I go through these coaching sessions and, I prepare them for interviews, for example, and, it's always this question, well, what are your weaknesses? And people are like, okay, strategically, what do you think I should say? And I'm like, there is no strategic answer. Because if you have to bend yourself to fit an expectation, but it's not the truth about who you are, you're not going to succeed. You're going to be constantly under pressure to deliver something you don't have and you don't want, actually. So it's about this honesty. And this is something that I really, really want to push out there, that branding, it's not about the shiny, it's not about glamour. It's actually about honesty. Now, to come back to your question, Anya, you as a solopreneur, as a single business, it's about the branding, because there is this overlap about who you are, because in the end, you are your brand. You are your business. So how do you position yourself to be professional? Because in the end, that's what we all need to be, but still be the real you. Still, be the person that has flaws, like I'm looking at my hair, my blouse is, shifted, and yeah, it's about that.
I mean, when I'm listening to you, two thoughts came to mind. When I started actually a year ago looking into hiring virtual assistants, and I started looking around and doing that process of finding people who would be part of my team, which I hadn't done in, up to then 18 years. I was always on my own. I started looking at their values. It's like, not so much. I mean, the skill set is one thing, but the values, what do they need? Also, how would they want to be led by me as their, employer? What are they expecting from me? So we were looking at that to find the perfect match. The second story that comes to mind is kind of one of those, and I think we all have them, experiences where I went for a job interview many, many years ago to a job that I really, really wanted. I was highly qualified for it, and I didn't get it. And I know everybody always says, a job interview is actually an interview from both sides. You compare it with a coin. And I always said, well, it's me applying for the job, but it's also the company applying to me as a possible employee. And still, and that's the next question, Inés, still, the sheer fact that I still remember that interview, that I still remember why they didn't take me, what reason they gave me afterwards. How do we find the balance between still having the courage to remain who we are? I was told at the time I was thinking too much. I was asked a question and I paused, actually. And the feedback was, yeah, but you always paused after the question. I said, yeah, because I thought about the answer. Too much thinking. So how can I remain myself, be myself, be authentic, and at the same time go for what I want? There's a discrepancy. What could I have done differently, or how can I look at it differently to see it from a different perspective?
To come back to your first point, regarding, when you were starting to actually hire people or to start working with people. Also, something is interesting, because I mentioned before there was this discussion on how is a solopreneur, using employer branding, and there was actually, the point was made like, yeah, but we don't need employer branding. Well, I think in the long term we do, because we all somehow work with others, right? And you said something very important, which was, we spoke about values. It's not only about the skills, because, the skills are, I think, rather easy to find out, because someone, even a virtual assistant would tell you, I can do this, 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 and this. And then you can see, is there a match with my needs? However, the values is something that is crucial. For example, myself, I'm very, very keen on reliability. I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and I'm exercising the hell of myself right now, like since last year, to really let go of things. And maybe you've realized as well. It's like, hey, Anya, how's that work again? Well, I sent you the document about 2 months ago. So I'm like first thing is like, oh my God, I'm so ashamed. And then I'm like, oh no, okay, I'm doing pretty good. I'm letting go of certain things. Now, you might be upset about it, but for me, that's a bit of a success feeling, because I'm not constantly like, oh my God, I got to do this right, got to do that right, like this, right? So I think it's crucial, to talk about the values. What is it you need to be able to be successful, and what does the person that you're hiring needs, or what do they look for? And then coming to your second point about the interviewing, I think you said something super important for me, which was, it wasn't the part like, what do I have to change to actually get what I want? And then just in a side sentence, you said, how do I have to change my thinking? Mm-hmm. And I think that's, where the gold sits. Because I would challenge you. I would ask you, Anja, do you really think you would be comfortable working in an environment where you are being criticized or you're being questioned already in the interview, why you take so long to actually, and why you're so silent to think? Mm-hmm. So for me, that's like, do you really think you're going to be comfortable and happy in an environment where you don't get the time to think about your answers, where you're being pushed to answer quickly, even though it's not who you are and it's not what makes you feel comfortable? So I think that's the problem. That's exactly the problem is, and I know it myself, how many times do we think we want something, and if we get that job because the pay is good, because we get more responsibility, because the company has a fantastic brand and a really good, reputation. And then in the interview, we just constantly jump over our gut feeling, which is, ooh, okay, now they ask a strange question. And I haven't asked back, what exactly do you mean by that? And as you said before as well, yes, absolutely. An interview is not a one-sided thing. And unfortunately, I still see it with highly professional and experienced people that they go into these conversations and they're like, oh my God, how do I have to position myself best to really get this position, to get this role? And it's absolutely no preparation of, have you thought about asking them the questions as well? Asking your future manager, so why exactly did you decide to come and work for this company? What is the biggest challenge in your daily business? Mm-hmm. What you dislike most about, your team, and when it doesn't work properly? What do you do with that? What is it, like the uncomfortable question? Mm-hmm. What are the reasons you would tell me not to take this role? And that's where people are like, oh, but I can't do that. And then I'm, like, of course, like, this is experience, Mm-hmm. I can only say this because of my experience. When I ask them, why not? Well, but I want to get the job. I don't want to be difficult. And that's the thing. It's not about being difficult. It's about really asking the questions that are crucial for you to take the decision if that company is a good company for you, if the values of the team and your future manager actually fit your values. And yeah, so I think it's the changing of view. It's the, look at it from a different direction. I think that's what it is. It's not, how do I get better? How do I do that more, in a better way to get what I want? The question is, do you really want that? So first thing is, know your values. Mm-hmm. Really do your homework. And most of the people I go into a coaching with are not able to tell me what their values are. We can work on it. We can try to find out from, asking questions, answering questions. What do you value, in a team setting? What's important to you? What makes you feel good? And that's how we can get them out. But to clearly know and be able to tell me 3 to 5 values that are crucial in their life, it's difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I think is the first step is try to figure out, because everyone thinks about, what are my skills? How do I position myself with my experience, et cetera, but, what do I need to succeed? What do I need to be happy? And it's that. And then, of course, you have the other side of the coin, the companies that, you go onto their webpage and they speak about the values,
Mm-hmm.
I've made a little research in the last 6 months, and I try to figure out, the companies that are promoting themselves, how do they differentiate themselves from others? And I found out that I think 60% of the Swiss mid-sized companies say the same thing.
Yes.
They say the same thing. And it is, it's a lot of blah, blah. And this is what I'm saying. Stop the blah, blah. Stop the glamour branding. Stop the shiny branding. Start being real. Because only then you attract the people that really want to work with you. Mm-hmm. And it's okay. You can tell them what challenges you have. I'm not saying drop your pants and just bring out the dirty stuff, because every company has their challenges. But, being honest and saying, look, if you come and work for us, you shouldn't expect, to have like a huge administration, assistants that are booking your travels, the very strict schedule, but be prepared to, work for it yourself. Be prepared to organize yourself. Be prepared to get the answer, no, I can't help you right now. Be prepared to go into this. And when people know that, then they can decide if they're going to go for this role or they're not. And the ones that will, then you can be sure that they're going to succeed. They're going to excel in their roles, because that's what they're looking for.
Yeah, there are a couple of things again. I mean, on one hand, I think from what you described, and I wrote it down, it's that daring greatly, the Brené Brown, the daring greatly. You go into a job interview and you also ask the difficult questions. And at the same time, you give the honest answers. You show yourself the way you are. And that is, I think, a daring greatly part. That is the courage to step on that path of truth. Mm-hmm. And that kind of holds a balance with letting go of being given chances, of being seen and liked and admired. And I think that is in our world more and more a dominant factor. And I don't know how to counter that. I mean, you described, the companies, well, don't, stop just pushing out everything that people might want to hear, but be real and show yourself the way you are and the struggles you have. And at the same time, it's like, but I'm frightened. What if I do that?
Yeah.
What will they think of me? I mean, the same for in our business, what if I'm just being myself, and that isn't, and let me just finish that sentence, and that isn't what they want, and that isn't good enough. And that's the little thing that I've always come across in my coachings. What if I'm not good enough? They didn't take me. They're cooperating with somebody else. I've not been invited to this. I've not, I haven't been given a chance there. I think that's at the center of trying to be courageous. The what if I'm not good enough? How do I handle that as a company? What if I'm not good enough to attract the people that I really, really want to attract because I know I need them to excel? What if? And the same for people who seek a job. What if I'm not good enough? But God, that would be such a fantastic opportunity for me. I would love that. Not so much around the values, not bending myself, but like accelerating. What if I'm not good enough?
I'm taking my time to think.
You wouldn't be hired by that company.
I'm always gonna think of you now when I take my time to think. It's also something I learned, by the way. So before I used to jump, with ideas and conclusions and stuff. So yeah.
Well, I always thought, when in code, I don't know how you do it, Inés, but in coaching sessions, when I ask a question and the answer comes a little bit too fast, I literally press the pause button for my coachee and say, let's just think about the answer before you.
Brilliant.
But yeah, what if I'm not good enough? I mean, that I think we're all struggling with that.
Yes, honestly, I think the bravest persons in this world, and I think the people that we think of, oh my God, they're so good, I think is part of who we are as human beings. To have this question, what if I'm not good enough? I mean, all the perfectionists, sorry to say it for the people out there, but I can speak for myself, is yes, yeah, I have that. What if I'm not good enough? What if the things that I'm doing are not good enough for my audience out there? But then the question is as well is, what if I bend myself? What if I pretend to be who I'm not and I succeed and then I have to constantly fight? Is that what I really want? I think the important thing here is, and I read that some time ago, is a quote from Nelson Mandela, I think, is courage is not the absence of fear. It is actually, to overcome this fear. And then there was this other quote, I think, by Churchill, and he said as well, courage is to realize when you have to speak up, and to also realize when you just sit down and shut up. And I think it's, in the long term, if you have this courage to actually get out there and say, oh, okay, I didn't do a really good job with this, or show your vulnerability, that we all have. And it just makes you you. If that's who you are, just be who you are. I think it's not the short-term success that you will feel it in. Maybe you succeed if you can, if you're charming, if you're tricky, if you're a very good communicator, you can communicate something you think you want to be and you think that makes you happy. But I think it shows in the long term. When you constantly live under pressure and you constantly have this imposter feeling, like, oh my God, I'm gonna be caught. I'm gonna be called out on, like, oh, you said you were this and this, and you think you're tough, but you're actually not. And that's just this horrible feeling that constantly sits in your neck. And coming back to your question about the companies, but it's so difficult. How can I be true? How can I actually make sure that I show myself the way I am and my culture the way it is, but still get the good people? Again, I just want to turn it around. How long do you want to spend a lot of effort, money, time to hire the wrong people that actually came to you because what you promised them? And, I see this in so many coaching sessions. they promised me this and this and this, and it's not true. They promised me that I would be able to learn, that the team culture is great, and it's not true. You know, I'm saying there, be brave. It's a trial phase of 3 months for both sides, not only the company to look at you, but also for you as an employee to actually assess if that's really, you know, what you thought it was. But then also be honest. How did you sell yourself? How did you sell yourself? What did you tell them that you were and you weren't? And then get out. But it takes courage. That's the thing. And I'm not saying don't be afraid of it, because yes, sure, you should be afraid. But in the long term, and that's the problem, it's a long-term process. It's a long-term view that you have to exercise, you know. And then I think also accepting that it takes little steps to get there. You can't just flick a, you know, thing and then it just works. It doesn't work that way. It's little steps. So yeah, you know, I was just I don't have a TV since I went to university, and I've never missed it. I never really watched TV, but once in a while I get hooked when I'm on I don't spend a lot of time on Facebook, but when I'm on there, and there always pops up this America's Got Talent. And I didn't used to know the shows. My mom is a super fan of this Germany's Got Talent and the kids shows and stuff like that. But somehow, I don't know why, something, you know, caught my attention, and it was about this guy, Simon, getting really emotional. And I watched this video and I cried so hard. There was this young woman who came on stage. She was asked, who you're with here? And she said, I'm alone. And then they asked her, what do you do for work? And did you see it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
what moved me was her sentence, I've got a 2% chance.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
So for anybody out there, look at the video.
She's called Nightbird. And so what I was going to say, what really made me cry was when she said at the end, you can't wait until life isn't hard anymore before you decide to be happy. Yeah. And that completely blew me. That was so, you know, yeah, that was really hard in terms of like the emotion that hit me, because to hear that from someone that has a 2% chance of surviving, a young woman, and the way she, you know, her face, her eyes, she was just glowing. She looked ethereal, actually. And that's what I thought, wow, okay. I mean, it's a choice. It's a choice also to be courageous and say, yeah, okay, I'm taking it on. But I decide that it's up to me. I decide it's up to me to show myself how I really am. And, you know, of course, I have to also deal with maybe the disappointment, maybe the hurt. Oh my God, they picked someone else. They didn't take me. They didn't give the project to me. And I think that's a part of who we are, as I said before, you know, it's the little steps. We're growing. We're taking time to reflect, and then to just decide, okay, let's go a step forward. But I can only say it for myself, you know, like when I started off with my business, and you mentioned this before in a sentence about, you know, like there's so much pressure out there. And you said as well, yeah, we all talk about authenticity, but no one really is super authentic. It's because we're scared. We're scared to be hurt. We're scared to be judged. And I am scared to be judged. And still I'm thinking, okay, I'm exercising it. You know, I'm exercising it by throwing out a post last week and saying, I'm frustrated. I spent over 3 hours, you know, to basically write a post, and there is no comment, no nothing. what is going on? And then I asked for feedback, and look, I got feedback. People wrote me private messages. They took the time to tell me, your post was too long, your post was too complicated, I didn't understand what you wanted to say. And I thought, oh my God, what a great opportunity for me to learn. But it was just because I asked. And of course, yeah, I mean, I was a bit scared. What if people were going to say back, that was just bullshit? Yeah, I have to deal with it. I have to learn to deal with it, because in the end, it's not about me trying to make everyone happy. I can't.
I think that's a very valuable lesson. No, but it's I find that in leaders, in team leaders, you know, management all the time, when it's about, yeah, but I want to make everybody kind of happy, you know, I take stuff on so they're happy. To learn, I can't make everybody happy.
Yeah.
What do I actually also need? I have also rights. I have duties, but I have rights. So we kind of went very deep, and I'm fascinated that within like 30 minutes we managed that. And I knew I could do that with you, Inés. I know we can just dive and go in there, and I could do that for hours. However, I also respect the time management of our viewers. And let me just end by saying, if you have a question out there, if you're listening, if you are watching it on any of the 3 platforms, please put your question in the chat. And then in about 10 minutes, Inés will be doing a Q&A session with me on my Facebook page, and wherever you are, you find the link in actually the post that I did. Come and find us there, and have your question answers. And for the moment, Inés, thank you so much for the time you took, and I shall see you in about 10 minutes.
See you on the other side.